welcome back to another CDA Lapgo video. My name is Bart, and today we will be taking the FIA 4 car and iRacing around the Sachsenring circuit. Here's my hot lap. All right, heading down the main straight at Sachsenring. Very cool track, home of the MotoGP for the German Grand Prix, of course. It's the first corner, quite a unique first corner. Very, very long corner. Yes, it's a hairpin, but there's a downhill. We've got a bit of a crest before we hit the brakes, downhill braking zone, and then goes back uphill towards the apex or the inside of the corner, and then just goes for a very, very long period of time. This track in general is very technical, and if you haven't driven the track before, which most people haven't because it's new to iRacing, it's a track that's not on many other simulators. So first thing is I recommend it as someone who's driven the track in real life. Awesome track. Give it a go for sure. Don't be afraid to spend your money on it. Really cool track. Take your time learning it. It's quite unique, but it's also really fun as well once you get the hang of it. A bit like a Brands Hatch GP kind of in a way of Germany is kind of like the way I think of it sometimes. Very fast flowing track. All right, so going to the first corner now, braking just before the start of this curb on the left-hand side. We also have this line here kind of as a reference for the pit exit. So between that and the start of this curb is a good reference to start braking. You'll be in fifth gear, not even up to sixth, not that long as the main straight here. Down to third gear, you can see it wasn't a straight, simple braking zone for me. I started on the left-hand side, hit high pressure, and then I start to aim towards here. So what we want to do is we need to be at the white line at the crest. The reason for this is because it's off camber. It's a white off camber corner, especially at the start. If you brake here and turn, you spend a lot of time doing nothing. Like a lot of time. It's a very long corner, this turn one. So we need to try and shorten the distance and get over this crest as much as possible so it's not off camber for us. Okay, so braking, once you get stopped, just try and lean the car in, braking, stop the car on the top of the hill here, get the car nicely hooked onto this curb. You don't need to be all the way over like I am on this lap, but certainly have your right tires on the curb and very least the white line. And as you crest, you should be able to start picking up throttle. So grip will come back towards you. Force yourself out. You should be forced wide enough that your left tires are at least on the white line, if not on the left-hand curb here as well. Now, straight into turn 2, 3, 4, 5, it all gets a bit tricky because you just don't stop turning here. Flat out, you'll be forced towards the left here. Don't stay on the white line. So you can see there's a bit of a service road here on the left-hand side of the track. We also have the penalty area as well on the right. We're going to be deviating from the white line at this point. Deviating from the white line, we kind of have the rubber as a reference, so we're going towards mid-track here with our right-hand side tires. Still turning left, but just letting the car run out. We're just trying to hug the white line, okay? Just let it out a little bit, let it out. This is to open up the section that's coming up next. So be flat out to that point, then lifting. We're lifting here, just to try and get this car hooked onto the left-hand side curb. So we're aiming here, looking over here. So you can see I get the left-hand side tires hooked inside the German flag curb here. And just into this little rut on the inner side of the curb. So if you can kind of get it hooked up this way, it's really good because it's going to help our positioning down the hill. Pick up throttle as soon as you get it hooked up. Okay, now positioning-wise, you shouldn't be forced onto the right-hand side curbing here. You can see I don't want us pointing this way because then you're going towards that barrier. Again, a very long corner now into what's turn 4, 5, depending on how you count it. We're going to be trying to point this way because if you go this way, you end up messing up this section, having to overslow it. So we've used that curve to hook ourselves to the left. We've got a nice angle here. We're going to be able to turn right now down the hill, flat. Just start to brake. See, I'm braking down the hill, not very hard. If you brake hard, you lock up. There's a lot of load going on here, right? We're going downhill, which means the rear tires are in the air. We're turning as well, so we haven't really got a flat platform for the tires. They're still trying to turn as well as brake. So we just have to feed into the brake quite softly here. Try and get the car onto this right-hand side curb. 2 reasons for that. 1, it's going to help us kind of turn around the corner. And 2, we're just trying to reduce the distance at this point. So we're trying to keep the car down here rather than going around and just taking all this extra track, which is why we prepared it so we can get a straighter line here. So braking in, down to 3rd gear. You can see I'm down to 2nd now, just trailing the brake for a long period there. So if you just watch my braking for that period of time, braking not too hard, just on the edge of grip, trying to not lock up. Down the hill, trailing the brake just to get that rotation. Now here we've run past the rubber. We want to run past the rubber here. We want to run up to this point, always pointing out towards this fence post here between these 2 grandstands or the BWT boarding. You've also got this ADAC boarding. You can see the orange edge of the barrier there pointing out that way. And what we want to do at this point is now we can rotate the car because we're deep enough in. If you're too tight, this right-hander keeps on going even more. And so if you're too tight, you just end up understeering and out of position for the next section coming up, which is also just more constant quarters. So we need to try and run out here to try and open ourselves up. And it also allowed us, if you watched, to get a bit more of a straighter braking zone here, which is why we got that. So brakes a bit straighter, rotate the car down to 2nd gear, get it turned. Once you're in 2nd, try and pin the throttle as soon as possible, get up the hill. You kind of get past the right-hand side curb here. If you meet this curb, so if you're able to get to this right-hand side curb, you've been too slow. This curb also upsets the car a bit on throttle, so if you clip it with your rear tire, just kind of wheel spins a bit. Especially with the open diff, it's going away from you, the direction the track's going. So really, you need to be on throttle in a way that the car shouldn't be able to meet this curb without running off the track on the exit here. So you should just kind of go past the white line here by about a tire width like this. Up to 3rd, you shouldn't have to go so wide that you have to force the car to stay off the track on the exit of this, or the bit of there's a black painting over the drain here. So it shouldn't be super hard to take this left-hander. It should be like this, just kind of meet the edge of the track. You should meet the edge of the track here rather than out here and having to, otherwise it makes this whole section a mess and you lose a lot of time with the scrub on the wheel. All right. Now you come near the white line here. You've got this little bit of a black patch here as a reference. At this point, we're going to try and go a little bit wider. Again, you got the rubber, you got this Bridgestone bridge, and you have the light board over there as a reference. Kind of run out a little bit where the rubber is. We're mid-track at this point, up to 4th gear. And now this is a triple left-hander that we're coming up to here. The first part we've kind of done just there, and now into the double apex part. So the first thing we're going to do is we're aiming to cut across this curb here. You'll see we're lifting now in 4th gear, so it'll be flat. It feels like we're going to crash. I know it looks like we're going to crash because it's like this tight corner, but it's actually a lot longer than it looks, and you'll keep going around. So lifting here, left tire's on the curb. Don't need to hook it all the way on the inside like we did earlier in the lap, just touching the painted curb at this point. Lift, let the car run out to here. Again, you might think, I want to go out here to go wider. You just end up wasting time. It's over prepping if you do that. And we need to carry the speed, especially because we're a low powered car. We need to keep the speed up. So try and run as far wide as you can here, which is basically at this point, while still making that inside curb. Lift, back on throttle now. Now that we've kind of got it rotated a bit more. Start picking up throttle now. You don't want to meet this inside curb. So again, a little bit tricky. Clip the first curb. You should be lifting just before you hit that first curb. Force as wide as you can while still being able to make it back for this second apex. Okay? So if you go so wide that you can't make it back for this apex, that's too wide. You need to lift earlier or lift more over the distance just to try and make sure you're not going too wide here. But it's kind of constant, the turning constantly through here. Just slightly adjusting the steering a little bit just to try to manage the tires and or not to slide the front of the rear too much. But you should be turning the whole time. It should never be like turn, stop, stern. It needs to just be constantly loaded. And you're using your right foot to control that. Okay, we shouldn't need to brake here. not in this car. It should just be controlling it with the throttle. So I use the throttle if I need a bit more front. If I need to rotate the car, if we lift, the car's going to pitch towards the front. And we're just going to get some more front grip. We're going to get some rotation. And we go back on throttle, it's going to accelerate, and we're going to get the front grip's going to come away from us. So just controlling the balance of the car with the throttle. Like I said, get rotated. At this point, now you should be able to pick up the throttle, and you can see we've crested the hill at this point as well. We've come over the crest of the hill. Now we're going to have more front grip as we go back down the hill. Able to pick up some throttle. You can see I pick up throttle there as soon as I'm worried about hitting the inside curb. You don't want to have your left tires kind of inside this curb too much because you can wheel spin on the grass and then you end up in trouble down the hill. So you just want to kind of meet this curb nicely. And just keep looking around. Just clip the curb like that. Clip the white line. That's where you want to be. Not on the inside of the curb, just clipping it nicely. Full throttle now. Forced out wide here. In some cars, you might have run it here. I think in this car, it doesn't like having its left tires on this curb. That's legal, though. That's all good. Up to the gravel is fine for off tracks. Pretty much every corner here. Just run nicely. So your right tires, like I said, just clip that curb. Full throttle. Smoothing the wheel. This is easy flat. Don't even need to take much curb there. Just clip the white line. Let the car run out to the right-hand side here. So again, this is all legal. All this green is fine in terms of off tracks and stuff. Unless you go silly amounts wide, which you don't want to anyway. But there is a bump here and a bump here. So, and it's a bit of a drop off the side of this curb, same as in real life. So we won't want to use it too much. So in fifth gear now, this quick left-hander coming up. Just use your right tires on that curb. Again, you can use this in terms of track width. Personally, you can play around. Personally, I think it's too aggressive when you go over it. It kind of upsets the car on the entry. This should be a very soft brake. You can do it with a lift, but I think the lift takes too long. So just a soft brake there to get the nose in. Again, just to rotate the car. And you should be able to pick up throttle as soon as you reach this apex curb. Again, don't take too much curb here. Just the colored curb should be okay. As soon as you hit the multicolored curb, get on throttle. Full throttle. Should be able to get to it pretty quick. Force yourself out wide. Once again, legal up to the gravel trap. I've tried using it. It's a bit aggressive in this car. So if your right tires run all over this curb, it's very abrasive. It's like this. Again, the GT I think would be fine, but in this single seater, it kind of just lose a bit of time, and you actually kind of lose momentum on the exit. So I think it's better just to touch it here. So what I mean by that is don't aim to meet the curb here, white line, but as the track comes back towards you up here after this little turn in the curb, just nicely meet the edge of the curb there. All right. Next bit, we've got another, what's that? Like a triple left-hander coming up once again, blind uphill. So for this one, this apex you want to completely ignore. This is flat, by the way. So, but that apex you want to completely ignore. Don't worry about that. We're aiming to meet the white line here at this point. This is pretty much the same for any car. Fortunately for us, it's quite easy in our 4 car. It's pretty easy flat. But you want to aim for the white line about halfway along this curb where his decker boards are, and then smoothen the steering. You're going to gain so much time here if you are smooth on the steering, if you're not doing this, okay? It's going to take a few laps to get used to references and where you look, because it's even harder to see from the actual cockpit, but just be smooth, start to build up your rhythm and use those references of marketing boards and stuff like that. All right, go through here. Again, you can take this curve. It's actually quite a nice grippy curve to take, or you can go the white line. I think it's slightly better to cut across this, because we'll get to in a moment. We've got a right-hander straight after this, and yes, okay, it might upset the car a tiny bit less if you just take the white line and you're not running on the curb. But this helps position the car to the left and kind of releases the car for the next section. So I think just left tires. You don't have to don't run the floor of this higher edge of the curve. Just run your left tires up on top. Just hooks it around a little bit. Again, smoothing the wheel. We're trying to reduce the steering lock here. Let the car run out to the white line. Get it back to the left. You see, I didn't go all the way out here. I didn't need to. Okay, I don't need to take the distance. I just want to be smooth in the steering and prepare the car a little bit. So it's that balance between reducing the distance and just being nice on the steering. A little bit left, a little bit right. Smooth down the hill. We can take some of the lock off now. We're just going to take the lock off, let it go out. Again, you can run past that curve there, but we don't need to in this car. Okay, over to the right-hand side now. Really cool left-hand of this. Downhill. Not much in the way of references here. Always hard to judge your braking. You get this white line, which we're going to brake quite well after, so don't worry about that. Braking now, just before the end of the curb. Right tires on the curb. This curb can be a bit unsettling for braking, but you really need to use it for opening up the corner, a bit like a Brooklands or something like that. So get on the curb, turn right. You can see I'm turning right at this point. But I'm kind of hitting the peak pressure as I come off the curb. So use the curb to open up the corner, but try and hit your highest pressure at the start of the braking zone off the curb if you can, ideally. Pointing here, you can see I'm aiming for like the middle of the 2 decker boards where these numbers are here. braking in kind of a straight line. Again, it's not perfect. We are turning into the corner, but at this point, my wheel's basically straight. If you look on the bottom left, and I need that because if I turn, I'm just going to lock up or lose the rear or something like that. So just try and get a little bit of a straight braking phase going to be efficient on the brakes. Again, I'm using aiming for somewhere around here. I know it's hard to see because it's not, and people get really upset because it's not like a clear apex point, but you got the rubber, you got some references around here in the middle of the track. You aim to be about here, to be straight braking towards there. Such a long corner. It's very easy to get in early. The last thing you want to do here is be early, so you need to be late on the brakes. If you're late on the brakes, you get rewarded. Late in the brakes and carrying speed is a good thing here, especially being late on the brakes. All right. Down to fourth gear, you can see it's a late downshift. I think this is true for a lot of cars here. You want to do a late downshift because if you can do that, you get rotation late in the corner and just helps the angle of the corner here. Again, such a long corner. If you're early here, you really get punished because we'll see because the exit really comes back towards you. Okay, so still trailed the brake in for a bit there. Got it stopped in a straight line. Now slowly meeting the curb. We're still turning. Aiming to meet the inside curb now. Just clip it there. As soon as we get to the inside curb, straight to throttle. And if we really push the entry there, we're not going to go off the track, okay? If you're going off the track, you get on throttle when you reach the inside curb and you go off track, you need to go later. I know it's tricky. I know it's really tricky. Sometimes you might have to be patient on throttle. You might just wait for a little bit, but just try to go later on the entry, yeah? You have to brake harder. Just try and move it a bit later. Just be smooth. It's a long braking zone. You've got a lot of space. That's why I didn't turn in. I was straight on the brakes because I knew I had a lot of time before I need to turn to the corner. You don't need to go diving straight for that apex curb. Don't get caught out by that. Okay, this curb is really annoying, by the way. Otherwise, I would use this runoff here, but it's really, you can see the edge of this curb is really tall. Even here, it's upsetting the car a lot. I wouldn't run any wider than this, which is part of the reason, again, why you don't want to be early there. You really get punished for that. Don't run on this curb. It's horrendous. Only just run on it there. Try and get back over to the left as soon as possible. It actually gets taller at this point as well. The curbs around here are very aggressive, so watch out for that. Get over to the left. Get off that exit curb. And you can brake on the edge of it here. Just don't have your tires over the edge. Braking hard. Down to third gear. Really important for this corner to have a hard late hit of the brake. I know it sounds obvious, but it's just especially true here. If you're a lot of people, first of all, you think it's really tight. It's not. It's not that tight. It's uphill, so a lot of the momentum is going to be killed that you carry into the corner anyway, and you need a good exit here. Okay. A lot of people go in early. They carry a lot of speed. They kind of rotate the car here. Then they have understeer about now. So they lose front grip and then they fight the car on the exit, snap on the exit. The way to avoid that, like I said, is brake really late. So braking references, you have this white line is a really good braking reference here on the right-hand side. I'm braking pretty much here. A really hard late brake hit. The later you can turn off the white line here, the better. And to get that quick rotation, you're going to want a hard hit of the brake. So hard hit of the brake, down to third gear, rotate the car. Again, that late downshift kind of just helping us rotate the car late. Get hooked onto this curb. This curb's really good for rotating the car. Get hooked up here. Try not to have too much lock on throttle. If the car starts to move around, come off the steering. Very easy to lose the rear there. Let the car out. Again, you can legally run over this curb, but it's very tall. Very, very tall. So don't. Just run your right tires on this curb. Try and get off the curb now. Keep the car on the right-hand side at the end of a qualifying lap, and that's a lap at Sachsenring. All right, so that takes us towards the end of the video now. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. And you can also check out the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the YouTube video description. My name's Bart. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next week. See ya.